All right. And we're live. Hey, everyone. It's great to be here. Welcome to the introduction to SCP. What is the LimaCharlie SecOps Cloud Platform? My name is Matt Bromiley. I'm the lead solutions engineer over here at LimaCharlie, and I am really looking forward to having everyone here. There's quite a few folks who I think have probably heard of LimaCharlie and are like, yeah, I keep hearing this name pop up in conversations, but what exactly is it that you guys do? What is this? What is this thing? And I'm going to be here to talk to you about that today. And I'm super excited about having a chance to go through this as well. This is the introduction to LimaCharlie, or introduction to the SecOps Cloud Platform. I think we've got enough folks in the room now. Let's go ahead and get started and get into it. I don't really have slides prepared for this intentionally, because I don't want to talk about what the SecOps Cloud Platform is. I want to show you. So a lot of what we're going to do and cover today is going to be demonstration based. It's going to be talking about the platform in action and seeing how it actually works. However, I have to give everyone a caveat about this. All right. My camera is right there. I can see you. My screen is that way. So if you see my eyes looking that way, it's not because I'm distracted or reading my email. It's because I'm walking through the demo here today. But I promise you, I'm here with you today. And for the next 50 minutes or so, we're going to have fun walking through and seeing what exactly LimaCharlie is, how it works, and how it can benefit you and your organization as well. Now, first things first, I'm going to go ahead and get my screen shared here and get this brought up just so I can make sure we are looking at the right content to talk through here. Perfect. There we go. See if I can't make this a little bit easier to consume. We're going to expand it till it's about right there. Awesome. There we are. I brought up this website first because this is usually where a lot of folks run into LimaCharlie for the very first time. And of course, like anything these days, when we hear about something, we of course go check out its website. Oh, what's that thing? Let me go and explore and see what that thing is. LimaCharlie.io is our website. It's going to be the best place to start to get insight and information about what we do and how we work and how we function. But it's also going to be your introduction to the concept of the SecOps Cloud Platform, security operations for the modern era. Now, I have to pause here because I want to talk a little bit about what it means to be a type of cloud platform. Like, what is that approach? Why did we arrive at this idea of a solution? And the answer is relatively simple when you think about the way that computing works in today's modern age. We are not, or I should say, we no longer, for the most part, are consumers of physical hardware when it comes to computing needs. I can remember the day because as an incident responder and a digital forensic analyst, I spent a lot of time analyzing these things. But I can remember the days very clearly where when you needed to do something from a computer perspective, you would go out and source your own hardware. You'd find a colo spot and you do all those, I'm going to call them legacy steps that I know are still out there, but isn't really the way we go if we want to build something these days. If I want to build something, I go to a cloud provider and I say, I need a little bit of this. I need a little bit of database, I need a little bit of web server, a little bit of serverless functionality, a little bit of storage. And I combine what I need in the right way that I need it to be able to serve up the thing that I'm looking to provide. Now, I might be providing a service as part of that. Maybe I'm building a web application or a product or a service that I'm going to then offer to other folks to use and consume. Or maybe I'm in an enterprise and my enterprise needs new functionality. Maybe I'm on the IT team or the IT help desk or the SOC team, or I'm within marketing or sales or wherever it might be. And as a builder, as someone who constructs things, I need the individual pieces that I can put together to build and offer a thing for my organization, for my enterprise. Regardless, the approach is the same. I went to the toolbox and I started to pull out the tools that I needed and put them together in the right way. Folks, that's a cloud provider. That's a cloud platform. And that's also LimaCharlie, the SecOps Cloud Platform. I want to take that approach. I should say, we want to be that toolbox that you look to and say, I need to do a SecOps thing. I need to build a SecOps thing. I want to make my SOC more efficient. I want to streamline the security services that I offer to my customers. I want to maybe even start to offer new services that I had never offered before. And rather than me go out and try and figure out how to build the correct wrench, I can go to the toolbox and see, oh, perfect. They've already got exactly what I need there. I know how this functionality works. That's the SecOps Cloud Platform, a collection of tools, of capabilities, of primitives, of individual pieces that you can put together in whatever way you need to build the thing that you're looking to build, to provide the thing, to enhance the thing, to modernize the thing, to customize the thing that you're looking to build. That's us. That's what we look to provide. That's what we strive to provide to you as our users. And there's a very, very wide range of use cases into which we fit from there. We do very, very well in providing managed service providers, MSSPs, MDRs, IR firms, providing that underlying infrastructure and technology. My colleague, Eric Capuano, last week did an awesome webinar on LimaCharlie for incident response purposes. As a former incident responder myself, I can tell you, we need things in incident response and security triage and containment. We need things like rapid architecture, rapid infrastructure deployment, coverage across any and all different data types. Notice I'm picking up little bits of pieces here. Similar to the way that I would go deploy something with a cloud provider, I would do the exact same thing with LimaCharlie. You need an organization to collect security data? Spun up. Again, primitive. I need EDR telemetry, EDR capabilities, bidirectional system interactivity, because I need to contain, I need to triage. Done. Another little part. I need to ingest logs from a bunch of different sources because I'm doing analysis on these things. We got you covered. Notice that use case just straddled not only the needs of an incident response or a managed service provider, but these are also the needs of a SOC inside of an organization too. So it's really about understanding what are the different things that my organization needs to do, and can I do them more effectively? Can I do them more efficiently? Our use cases also extend to perhaps maybe something that someone might find as part of an all-in-one platform, but wants to kind of break out into different approaches. What I mean by that is we offer endpoint monitoring and I shouldn't say monitoring, I should say endpoint detection and response capabilities, which means you can deploy an EDR sensor, collect back telemetry, and build endpoint monitoring. Let's reframe that correctly. But maybe in other cases, an endpoint is not necessarily what I need right now. What I need right now is I need to better consolidate telemetry across my cloud providers. I've got a little bit of AWS, a little bit of Azure, a little bit of GCP. I need a better way to consolidate and go through this data, but I also want to make it actionable and I want to make it operational, which means I want to take these traditionally IT things and put a security magnifying glass on them. You can do both here. Again, it's a toolbox. We want you to build out the thing that you're looking to build out. So my first kind of call to action for everyone here, I don't want to know them in the chat, but I want you to think about these as you're watching me go through the platform. I want you to think about what are the things that your security team, your managed services team, your IR, your incident responders, your digital forensic analysts, what are the things that they need? What are the things that maybe, oh, if I could just build this thing, I would give them this, or we would do this, or we would change that. And I want you to think about what that idea is. I want you to just keep it in the front of your mind as we go through this, because I might come across or I might unearth that nugget where you're like, oh, that's the thing that we need. I didn't even know that I could do that. I didn't even know that was a possibility. So we're going to break out of some of those chains, but we're also going to take a different approach to security, which is you might not need a full, comprehensive, complete makeover of your entire security stack. But maybe there's a thing that you wish you could do that you can't with your current tool set. Or maybe there's a thing that you wish you could do better with your current tool set. And dare I use the phrase again, or dare I use the verb again, maybe there's something out there that you want to modernize. Let's talk about how we can do that within LimaCharlie. Let's jump right into what the platform looks like. Now, there are a few things about LimaCharlie that I need everyone who's watching this to understand. Number one, we're an API-first platform. Again, I will use my cloud provider analogy to help quickly emulate what this means. If I need to spin up a storage bucket in one of those cloud providers, I can, if I want, log into the web UI, issue a bunch of, click a bunch of buttons, name it, so on and so forth, and move on. I can also issue a single API call. Pretty much everything you can do in a cloud provider, in a cloud platform, can be done via API. so that I can go and interact with things the way that I want to, the way that my team wants to. In the SecOps Cloud Platform, that holds true throughout the entirety of everything I'm going to show you. We're an API first platform. Every single thing that I talk about and show you that can be done inside of a web UI. It can be done inside of your own custom UI. It can be done with Python. It can be done with a REST API. We're an API first platform, which does not restrict you, does not limit in the way that you interact with us or the way that you, once again, build that security thing, construct that security thing, modernize that approach. That's kind of, little big takeaway, number one. There's another part in this, and I've got this up, and hopefully everyone's had time to kind of look through what I'm looking here. And you might see a bunch of boxes and names and things like that. One other thing that LimaCharlie takes for granted, which means it's a default for us. It's not a feature that you pay for, but it's a thing that is included, is multi-tenancy. Now, this can go a couple of different ways depending on how your organization is set up. If you're a managed service provider, you're going to need a tenant for each one of your customers. Folks, we are not a giant data lake that uses tagging or something to separate. When I say multi-tenancy, I'm talking about individual isolated silos of data. Security data should not be crossed over, should not be blended between various customers or organizations. We don't. It's table stakes for us, once again, to say, I need to segregate my security data based on different qualifiers. For managed security providers, again, that's going to be your customer base. For those of you in enterprises and different organizations, it might be business units. It might be geographic regions. It might be different populations of systems, meaning servers versus workstations or geolocations inside of a particular region. It might be compliance requirements, whatever the need is. Breaking up an environment into manageable pieces only allows for more effective approach towards security. So think about that. I haven't even drilled into anything yet, and I'm already telling you the table stakes for LimaCharlie are to make it easier to do security, number one, and number two, do it in a much more secure multi-tenant fashion. The only little caveat I'll note here is at LimaCharlie, we refer to tenants as organizations. You're going to see the word organization a lot. Just supplement the word tenant if you'd like to. Regardless, it's the same thing. Let me zoom in on this one a little bit here. And we're going to jump into a demo organization. Now, there's one thing, one primitive, one idea that needs to be the first one that anyone recognizes when they think about how to go through and do security. And that is the idea of telemetry. Telemetry is the thing that drives everything that we do. IT operations, telemetry. Network engineering, telemetry. Security detection and response, telemetry. Bringing data in from the various pieces of my organization is going to be the start of any security approach that I take. Okay. It's just, that's the way it is. We need signal. We need to know what's happening inside of the environment. So that way we can use that knowledge for our own benefit. In LimaCharlie, we've got two types of sensors, two types of telemetry that can be used to, I should say, two ways to bring telemetry in. The first is going to be in the form of an EDR sensor. At a very, very high enough level, an EDR sensor is going to be your system-based data. So this is going to be telemetry from a system on which an agent is installed. We call them sensors. Sensors is our form of an agent. Again, it's a piece of the SecOps Cloud Platform. But a system or a sensor is going to be sending in system telemetry, much akin to what we've seen in other approaches. Process executions, process details, file details, user information. What is happening on that system at that point in time? Network connections, changes, modifications, things done to the registry, things done to certain files. What's happening on that system? That's your first form of telemetry. We do have our own EDR sensor at LimaCharlie, but that's not to say we're an EDR company. It's more of that's a part of what we've got. Remember, I want to break this down into consumable ways that you can deploy only what it is that you need. EDR telemetry is a form of that. The reason it's EDR telemetry and not host telemetry is because the other thing our EDR sensor does is it also gives you interactive capabilities with that system. Let's talk about that one first. So I'm going to drill into what is a typical demo Windows system here. This is a Windows 2016 system that's just running, and it is inside of our demo instance here. Take a look at everything I've got over to the left-hand side. This is a starting point for an EDR sensor. Things like And again, if I put on my incident responder hat that I wore for many years, this is all valuable information, things that I want to know right now. If I put on my SOC monitoring hat, this is still valuable information, things that I want to know right now. If I put on my asset inventory hat, this is valuable information. You notice how this little piece, this little primitive inside of LimaCharlie can actually apply to multiple different use cases, again, depending on what it is that you need. But inside of my EDR sensor here, there's a lot of different capabilities that folks need to be aware of. First and foremost, because it is an EDR sensor, the D and R, the detection and response part, is the most important part of an EDR sensor. Otherwise, it's just telemetry. It's just data coming in. Now, you can send telemetry from a system to some sort of central repository all day long. Unless you can reach back and impact that particular system, as I'm about to show you here, you're just receiving signal. You aren't modifying the threat actor's change of course. You're not impacting anything on the system. You're not stopping any threats. You're just receiving data. Our EDR sensor is bidirectional, which means not only can I receive data, I can also point back. Now, a lot of you may be like, well, Matt, that's pretty much table stakes for any EDR sensor, is the ability to stop a threat, the ability to stop something. And I would agree with you 100%. And I would then go a step further and say, yeah, but how much control have you had over that before? Meaning, again, I want to build a particular thing. I need EDR telemetry. I need EDR interactivity, but I've only been limited to what the manual says I can do. Here we open things up completely for you. So it's an EDR sensor. It's running on this Windows system. Within it, I have the ability to, of course, pull information. I can pull things such as what's set to automatically run. What are my auto runs? What are the drivers that are installed on that particular system? What are the packages that are installed? Do I have any active network connections right now? What are their associated processes? By the way, I'm clicking through this live and we're interacting with this system live. There may be something of interest on the file system that I want to go and navigate and see. Maybe my user is unfortunately known for storing PowerShell scripts in a place they're not supposed to. This is all containment. This is all triage. This is all SOC monitoring, investigation, understanding what may be happening on that particular system. Let's go to the view that most of my security folks are used to liking and seeing, which is my timeline view. This is the second by second representation of what's happening on that particular system. Now, you may notice, for those of you with that security eye, you may notice there's a lot of noise going on inside of here. Let me explain what that is in just a moment here. First off, these are table stakes, meaning they are the bare minimum of what I would expect to receive out of any EDR sensor that's out there. And if you're not, demand it. Things like DNS requests, network connections, process execution, so on and so forth. The other thing that we've done is you might notice there's these WEL events. These are your Windows event log events. The other thing that we've done with our EDR sensor is realized, wait a second, the Windows event log data, that's actually a stream, a real-time stream that we can tap into and ship up as part of that EDR telemetry. I don't want to see a table of system telemetry, a table of Windows event logs, a table of DNS activity, and then try to either cross-correlate all that stuff or have some analyst hopefully keep really, really good notes. I want to solve that issue for you. And I'm going to do that by marrying all this data up into one place. Now, for those of you, again, with that keen security eye, you might have noticed that there's a whole bunch of 4625s here. This is an internet-facing system. It's getting hammered continuously with fake logins. And here are a bunch of different target usernames. And you can kind of see the name changing over there. And we've got all sorts of dictionary attacks and things like that happening. But long story short, you know, it's an internet-facing Windows system. We're going to expect a little bit of noise coming from the hum of the internet. But what it does is it gives me really good insight into system telemetry and what might be happening at that time. Of course, if I ever needed to, I could also go interactive with that particular system. And I hope everyone's picking up here. I'm describing these as things that I would expect any and every EDR to give you. I'm not describing LimaCharlie as an EDR platform. I'm talking about the power of this one little feature that the SecOps Cloud Platform has. This is where we want you at as security practitioners, as SOC managers, as managed service providers, as the leaders of enterprise security, I want you to think about all these things as things I can do, because they should be, again, included in what you build out and the tools that you use. So all I'm doing here is showing you the power of the toolbox that I mentioned in the very beginning of today's webcast. Last but certainly not least, when I talked about the console, getting interactive with the system, this is where more of the potential incident containment and triage side of things come in, because it's not just telemetry. It's also me maybe killing a process, killing a network connection, isolating a system, blocking it, or preventing the adversary from doing something else inside of that environment. I would, again, kind of lean on and say that's the goal of what an EDR sensor should be doing. That's this tool. This particular tool inside of the toolbox is a very powerful one. And of course, we're nowhere near done with the other capabilities. Outside of our EDR sensor, we also have what's known as the LimaCharlie adapter. The LimaCharlie adapter is, for all intents and purposes, your log forwarder, your way to grab data from any other source that's out there. And when I say any other source, folks, I'm not talking about a catalog of a couple hundred sources that are out there, and we're going to call that any because it encompasses, 90% of the security industry. If there is a structured data format that's out there, you can send it to us. You can send it to us. We can ingest it. We can make it observable and actionable for you. And I'll talk about that one in just a second here. Any data stream you want to send. Now, of course, there are like the ones that I would expect to see. I would expect to see integrations with third-party cloud providers like AWS or Azure. I would expect to see things like Slack or chat applications or source code managers like GitHub. Oh, by the way, I should have mentioned, of course, our EDR capabilities, very similar to our adapter capabilities, also extend to every operating system that's out there. So you notice the more that I start to unravel the types of telemetry that I can bring into the toolbox, the more I just get into a point of anything and everything that's out there. And where this becomes really useful is, once again, if I sit here and I say, hey, send us your, you can ingest Microsoft data and you can ingest Windows data. That seems like something everyone else can do, but I don't want you to dream about that. I want you to dream about, what can I do with Linux coverage? What can I do with security telemetry from my Mac environment? Wait a second. What if I were to bring these things together in a way that I never have before? What can my security team do with that approach? That's where we want you thinking about it. So there's a reason I kind of jump around between the different telemetry types, primarily because a lot of these are capabilities and features that some organizations have never had. There's a really great case study about a customer of ours. I won't mention it, but it is public. So if anyone can connect the dots, hit me up on LinkedIn or in Slack and let me know. But there's a company who does a lot of work with us. They used to be a Windows monitoring company, a Windows MSSP or MDR provider. They never had the capability for Linux or Mac. We helped unlock that capability for them. That's the type of dreaming that I want you to have as a security practitioner. What are the things I can do? Because again, if I look at ways to modernize my security approach, it's not necessarily collecting event logs better. It's offering things to my customers or offering things to my organization that I haven't been able to do before. Again, that's the idea of a cloud platform, expanding what it is we think we can do and modernizing to meet where organizations are today. One other thing, which I find to be really cool about this, is when you set up a telemetry stream in LimaCharlie, whether it's bidirectional or unidirectional, meaning whether it's an EDR sensor, Windows, Linux, Mac, Docker, ARM, whatever, or whether it is a unidirectional source like a CloudTrail log, for example, an AWS CloudTrail log, or Azure logs or GCP or whatever it might be. Let's go to GitHub. Let's say you're bringing GitHub logs in. The next element of change that I want you to consider is when we talk about modernizing our data, the previous approach has often been to ingest everything into a common source and treat everything like an index. I have a bunch of indices inside of my SIM or inside of my data lake or inside of my whatever, and I can run queries across all of that data whenever I want, and it's amazing because it's always searchable and it's always there. The problem is you're just converting a log stream from one platform to another in the form of an index. We tend to approach things a little bit differently. Now, keep in mind, what are some of the things that I wish my security team could do differently? Or what are some ways I could modernize the things that we do? Here's your next step. Here's the next level up. What if every single telemetry stream that came into LimaCharlie was actionable? Meaning I could write detection and response rules against that stream. What could you do if every single piece of telemetry that you ever ingested was not just an index that you could search through, but was a real-time live stream that you could write actions against? That's the next key part, the next key pillar of LimaCharlie's SecOps Cloud Platform is our detection and response engine. That detection and response capability that sits on top of every piece of telemetry that comes in. Now, I have to go a little bit more on the security route to talk about where this is super important, but I'll back up for a moment and just say, imagine you're in the IT ops space, right? And you need to bring together some of the functionality that the security team has, meaning I want to be able to action on when certain things happen inside of my environment. Well, we've got a telemetry stream and we've got an engine that allows you to observe those events and detect on things in real time. Take that exact same approach and apply it to security. Rather than some sort of IT misconfiguration, all we're looking at now is threat actor activity. But the idea of actioning on telemetry is the same. Let's talk about how that works and what that looks like. I'm actually going to start with the way that threat actors do what they do as a way to demonstrate why this is important. I'm going to pick on AWS, not AWS the company, but AWS as a telemetry stream. There are some threat actors out there, folks, who don't touch traditional EDR systems at all. They touch cloud platforms. If I remember reading correctly, I think it was Google who recently published a threat report, and I think misconfigurations or weak username password combinations and crypto mining were some of the biggest or most prevalent threats that they had seen out there. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes hearing about that feels a little bit just like a mosquito bite, like you just want to kind of smack it away and just be done with it, but it's like it never ends. It's just always, someone found weak passwords, got access to a particular organization, and they were able to deploy a crypto miner. Now, I'm not here for the threat analysis discussion of it. I'm here for the discussion of a threat actor that lives and exists entirely inside of your cloud platform logs. If all I'm doing is shipping those logs to an index and searching through them at some point in time, it's not very actionable. So again, let's talk about modernizing. My adversaries have modernized. They've realized that some companies live entirely inside of third-party applications, SaaS platforms, and cloud providers. That's their target base. That's where they go after. So if I put that security lens on it, I have every need in the world to make those seemingly random telemetry streams or innocuous telemetry streams actionable. Because I've got threat actors who aren't going to touch the corpus of Yara signatures that I'm scanning through my environment. They're not going to hit the advanced next-gen whatever endpoint thing that I've got deployed. They're going after my cloud infrastructure. So I need to find ways to make that actionable as well. And I don't want it to be a minute, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 hours, 4 weeks later that I learn about the threat. I want it in real time. That's where our detection and response engine comes in. Our detection and response engine treats every single stream that comes into LimaCharlie as a actionable stream. So let me hop back to our CloudTrail logs, natively ingested into LimaCharlie. Again, these are sample logs right here, but take a look at all the different events, and I'll zoom in because I know on the webcast sometimes it can be a little hard to see. But notice all the different events coming through are normalized and recognized inside of the platform. I'm not crafting my queries to search through an index. I am looking at a real-time stream of what's happening in my AWS instance as configured in the logs. And let's just say, hypothetically, because there's a threat actor that makes use of this one, let's just say the assume role event gave me some metadata about something malicious going on inside of my environment or a potential thing happening. Of course, I can take away the security lens here, and I can also extend this to just general IT operations or cloud management. Let's say the idea of assigning a new user account was something that I wanted to alert on or be wary of or track or capture in a certain place. That's another telemetry item I'm going to make actionable. But we'll stick with the security lens for right now. But again, think about what it is you want to build, the problems that you want to solve. Regardless, that particular event, the idea of this thing is an actionable event. One click, I hop over to our detection and response capability, and now we're starting to write rules. So the other really capable thing that LimaCharlie lets you do is it lets you write your own detection and response rules against any telemetry stream that you bring in, EDR or not. I want to make my AWS logs actionable. Here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to write a detection and response rule against the assume role event, which is the one that we just took a look at just a moment ago. And in this case right here, when I auto clicked into the detection and response engine, it gave me a really easy kind of helper that said, hey, here's the event and here's the source that it came from. But let's just say, hypothetically, that we wanted to do this, right? Let's just say hypothetically that we were interested in the username. And we were interested of when the username is equal to, and I'm going to change things up here a little bit. Let's just say hypothetically that whenever the user Matt registers or assumes a role in AWS, whenever that happens, I want to know about it. I don't know why this Matt guy keeps opening accounts, assuming roles, taking permissions he's not supposed to have, whatever it might be. Or let's just say there's an adversary that is known for using this particular username. It doesn't matter what the qualifier is. What matters to me is that you find value in knowing about this event. This is important to you or your organization for some reason or another. Perfect. Let's make it actionable. Let's make this a real-time detection. Let's go ahead and zoom in on this event and say, when this particular assume role event happens, if Matt is in the username field, I want to know about it. So there's qualifier one. Qualifier one is the detection. Remember, detection and response. Both pieces need to have equal weight. The detection side says, what is it you're looking for? What do you want to know? Now, I'll go a step further. And I will say that there is a whole world of what is it that you're looking for out there. Sometimes it's really easy, like it's, I don't know, a hash of a file or an IP address that someone is connecting to, or it's a parent and child process combination, or it's misuse or living off the land technique. It's a name of a piece of malware. It's some sort of thing about a code signature. It's an account username qualifier. It's a characteristic of a system. It doesn't matter. What matters is you want to know about a thing. So that's what detection and response rules are for, to bring to light, to bubble up that thing that you're interested in. Now, that's the detect side of things. What about the response? What is it that you want me to do? Meaning, what is it you want LimaCharlie to do when we find that particular thing? That's the response side. The response side is, here's what I want you to do. I want you to send a report that says, okay, let's just call it this. Matt user found again. Really straightforward. That's going to fire a detection inside of LimaCharlie. And we're going to look at the detections in just a moment here. But that's going to fire a detection very similar to you would in any sort of security platform. A detection that says thing is found. Let's just say, hypothetically, that I wanted to do a little bit more. Now, I'm going to type a command in here, which is not a command, not a real command, but I want to get you thinking about things that could happen. Let's just say, hypothetically, that this is a really big deal. Let's just say this Matt user is a disgruntled employee who keeps logging in and assuming roles inside of AWS. We're having a hard time shutting them down. Perfect. Even better. There's another action I want you to take. I want you to call the exec tree or something like that. And I should put this up on the previous line. I've got an action now, which is reach out to the SOC. Let's do another one. Send a page over to PagerDuty. Send something to a ticketing system that says, hey, this thing is happening once again. Send it to a call tree. Notify the right people. Hey, I also want you to email this out to, and this is going to be an output qualifier for us. I want you to email this to the IR mailing list. Something along those lines. We've just done a couple of things here. Number one, we've stepped away from the what is it you want me to find? And we've moved into the what is it you want me to do when you find that thing? We want to give both of those equal weights, meaning I want the response to be as important as the detection. Knowing that someone is in your environment, fantastic, you found them, great job. What do you do when someone's in there? Now, depending on our telemetry source, if we've got an EDR sensor, for example, I can reach back to that telemetry source and say, oh, you found a thing? Kill it. Let's go ahead and drop that in here too. And we'll go ahead and say kill process. And again, I'm not typing the real command. I'm typing the idea out here. Kill the process. But take a look within this one little detection. I created 5 different actions, 5 different outputs, 5 different things that I want the platform to do when this thing is seen. That's the type of flexibility, the type of versatility that I think you should have in security, in modern security operations, is the ability to say, this one event, this one thing can mean so much to my organization. Or we could go as far as to say, don't include it. Maybe I want to go a step further and I want to say, hey, for my SOC analyst team, I'm going to include a little bit of data. The priority here is going to be priority 5. Not a P0, not a P1. Send it to a ticket queue. Go tell Matt, stop assuming roles of accounts and move on. Look how quickly I took one event and I moved it around the chessboard of priorities, of notifications, of capabilities. Folks, this could be done with any and every single type of telemetry stream that comes into LimaCharlie. Remember, I told you in the very beginning, all of these capabilities, all of these features, all of these basics of the SecOps Cloud Platform are also available via API, which means I can create detections from an API perspective. I can export detections from an API perspective. I can stream detections out. So that way I have the ability to send these wherever I want them to go or just look at them here. Now, because that one Windows system is getting absolutely hammered right now, that is consuming most of our web browser viewable detections here. But there's another really fun one in here as well, which is just simply referred to and called evil in this case. And in this case right here, we're seeing a really simple process execution, or I should say an existing process being found that is being detected or has tripped a particular detection and response rule. Those are detection and response capabilities. And that's kind of the second core part of LimaCharlie, is the ability to say, what is it that's coming in? What do I want to do against that telemetry stream? Meaning, what do I want to look for? I want to look for these things in real time. Now, of course, I can take that idea and I can expand it out a bunch of different ways. Let's look at a few use cases. Let's say I'm in an enterprise SOC and I want to build a threat hunting program. Well, a threat hunting program traditionally, and I should say typically because I've helped build a few, typically starts with a set of queries. Things that we want to look for because our EDR sensor or our AV or our whatever isn't able to detect against those things. I would say that's probably baseline problem number 1, but let's not go there just yet. A threat hunting program is looking for threats inside of the telemetry that have not been previously detected. Could we be safe to say that a lot of times a threat hunting program starts out as fumbling through the dark, looking for a particular thing? Well, I would argue that if I give you a set of telemetry and that telemetry is a point in time and you run a query, a hunt against that data historically, you are very interested to know if the query, that hunt, the meat of that hunt has ever happened. 100%. Would it also be fair to say that if you are interested in it in the past, you are also interested in it in the future? Absolutely. So let's modernize. I don't want to keep running queries every week, and I don't want to auto run queries either. I want to take a telemetry source and make it actionable. That's another area where, again, our detection and response engine comes in. Threat hunting, modernized. Because I took what was a collection of queries or things that maybe I wouldn't be observed by my security tool, and I made them observable. Number 1. Let's take an IR scope of things. Let's say I'm in the middle of an incident response or I'm helping respond to a ticket or something big that came through. I have so many needs for custom detection and response rules. I don't want them applied to the entire organization. I want them applied to a specific subset. I want them applied to the systems of interest. I'm dealing with a ransomware case, and there are systems that are more critical than others, so treat their security differently. Again, I'm giving you a toolbox. You want to do that? Absolutely. Detection and response rules can be applied to a subset of systems or to all. The actions that you take in the form of a response can be dependent on what that system does, or whether that system has been impacted, or how sensitive that system is to your environment. Imagine writing your own detection and response rules that didn't just meet the needs of your security team, but also met the niche requirements of your organization. There's so much power inside of writing and crafting your own detection and response rules. And by the way, I hope everyone realized we wrote a pretty powerful rule with like 2 clicks of a button and just walking through some hypotheses of what I want this rule to do. But it gets even easier when we look at different events. Another huge, amazing capability within LimaCharlie is our ability to extend the platform in multiple shapes and ways. We have an add-ons marketplace, and this is a little bit different from what a lot of you are expecting as a marketplace. Our add-ons marketplace is designed to either extend the EDR sensor, extend the telemetry that gets brought in, or extend the platform as a whole. And we found so many ways to extend all three of those things. First and foremost are like your generic data enrichment type of extensions. And I view data enrichment as a really important way to take telemetry and help me confirm or at least add some context as to whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. We do that with API integrations. We've got a few listed here, but I know we've got folks who have built out multiple different API integrations where they're bringing in some other source to help enrich and bolster the telemetry that they're looking at. Again, it might be, is this IP address bad, or is it from a geolocation that I didn't expect? In other cases, it might be as strong as, I want you to run this executable through a malware sandbox and send the results back. Depends, again, on what it is you're looking to build out. For those of you who are hearing me talk about detection and response rules, and you're like, oh my gosh, Matt, that sounds cool, but I wish I had the time to do that. No problem. I got you covered there too. Again, by having a versatile, an extremely interoperable and changeable platform, we also found ways to bring in public and managed rule sets and automatically apply those on top of your data. So if you're one who's saying, I love these features, but I need some help with the detection and response side of things, I got you covered there too. We have a native free integration with Sigma rules, Snap Attack's community corpus, SOC Prime, and we've also got folks inside of LimaCharlie who build and offer their own rule sets for others to use. Now, I want you to think about that market right there. We've got folks who create and write their own rule sets and turn around and offer those for other LimaCharlie users to use. So again, when you think about how do I bring and combine these different pieces together, the answer is really, how do you want to? And I really like the approach of someone being able to say, hey, Matt, I need to get detection and response capabilities up today. And I say, cool. Multi-tenant, no problem. Spin up an organization or a tenant, as we talked about earlier, with an API, deploy your sensors, drop in Sigma rules, and in literally a single digit number of minutes, if I even need to go plural on that, I'm up and running and I'm off to the races with hundreds of detection and response rules. Is it perfect? No. Is it better than 0%? Or is it better than wasting months or days or hours achieving the exact same result? Absolutely. Because again, if I'm dealing with live threat actors and adversaries, and I'm looking to modernize my approach, I want to spin up security infrastructure and security capabilities as quickly as I can spin up a storage bucket. It should be that fast. And with us, it is. Another thing that we've added into the platform here are the ideas of extensions. Extensions is yet another area where you usually and typically extend either the EDR sensor or the platform. Extensions have a lot of times been ways for us to offer different features inside of LimaCharlie. They're free features. For example, file integrity and registry integrity monitoring are offered for free as part of LimaCharlie. We figure, hey, you've already got an endpoint sensor deployed out there. Why not just also monitor file paths and registry paths for changes? Really helps cut down detection and response rules. That's an extension. You want to integrate with Alien Vault's OTX? Got you covered. That's there too. PagerDuty, integrated, done. And we also found a way and said, you know what the other thing extensions allows us to do is it also allows us to basically work with and bring in other open source tools that are out there in order to bring that technology and capability into our LimaCharlie user base. So one of the favorite ones, and I really like this one because I was just testing it out the other day and having a lot of fun with it, was the Atomic Red Team. Atomic Red Team is a fantastic MITRE ATT&CK framework, security control testing. And I'm probably missing a verb or a noun in there, but it's an amazing way to test your environments and test your security controls using predefined scripts by the folks over at Red Canary in the form of Atomic Red Team. We have it built in to our platform. Very similar to the way that you would go to a cloud provider, set up a storage bucket or an EC2 instance, and quoting AWS there, set up a VM and bring in a feature or capability. We want you to be able to do the same thing in security. Simply dropping you off at the bus stop with a bunch of tools and saying, good luck on building all these things isn't fair. We also give you capabilities to extend security control testing. For those of you who might be familiar with the open source project known as Velociraptor, we've also got Velociraptor integrated into LimaCharlie, which means I can run Velociraptor collections, queries, and bring that data back into LimaCharlie, all without having to deploy another endpoint sensor, without having to deploy another agent. It's all in one place. So our add-ons marketplace, again, is a way to really extend the power of the sensors, the adapters, or the platform itself. The other one that I'll mention, because we have talked a little bit about detection and response capabilities, is also our integration with Yara. Again, an open source project, one that is incredibly effective at detecting malware and malicious files and whatnot. Yara is built into the LimaCharlie sensor. You can turn it on and enable it for free. This is an extremely powerful vantage point for those of you who are in that security monitoring space, because I gave you a tool which at its core functionality is a signal stream, and I've now enhanced the type of signal that you can send back. And furthermore, I've created another detection capability for you as well. There's an awesome set of capabilities inside of LimaCharlie, and I definitely encourage anyone who's like, wow, I want one of the things he talked about to get in there and check it out. The last little piece, and I'm nowhere near done covering the entirety of the platform, but we, of course, have finite time. The last little piece I want to talk about here is our output capabilities. And I view this to actually be a very important part of how security teams construct their processes, build their playbooks, and do all of the other things that they need to do. Managed service provider, enterprise organization, IT ops, doesn't matter. SOC analyst all the way up to CISO or any other management suite might have the need to say, bringing all this telemetry in is part one, detecting and responding on it is part two. Where we send those detections, where we send that telemetry, what we do with that data is another key pillar of how we build what we build. When we wrote that detection and response rule earlier, we talked about sending data to multiple destinations depending on severity, depending on importance to my environment, depending on, and I'll bucket it as this, who needs to see that detection that fired? Who needs to see that telemetry? Who needs to see that thing that happened against that telemetry stream that we've already determined is important? Who needs to see it? Where does it need to go? That is our output capabilities. With LimaCharlie's output capabilities, it can be as verbose or as specific as you want it to be. You can stream, and I wouldn't recommend doing this, but if you wanted to duplicate all of the events and send them out to another data source, you certainly could. But if you were to say, hey, you know what? Let's say for mathematical sense, we stream a gigabyte of telemetry every single day from every single system that we have. I'm just throwing out raw numbers here. Let's just say we stream a gigabyte a day. Folks, I promise you, from a security monitoring perspective, you don't detect on a gigabyte worth of data every day. So there's a couple opportunities here. Do we limit how much we send because we maybe hopefully don't need it? Do the threat actors find a way to hide inside of those gaps after we turn off those sources? Potentially. But what if I could instead refine what I forward on down the line? Meaning, I want you, LimaCharlie, to help me collect all that telemetry and then help me find the diamonds in the rough, find the needles in the haystack. Can I do that with detection and response rules? Absolutely. Can I send the detection output to one place while keeping the telemetry with you? Absolutely. Every single telemetry stream that you send into LimaCharlie includes a year of retention for that exact use case. We don't want you to send all your data on to someone's email list or to some sort of SOC alert or ticketing system. We don't have time for that. Analysis paralysis is far too real because we have alert fatigue. I would rather go the other way and say, let's just send the detections that matter. Send the detections and alerts that matter based on the needs of our environment so that my security team can spend time doing what they do best, which is responding to real threats, not chasing ghosts throughout the environment. We can also go as specific, and I'm looking down here at our tailored output options. We can also go as specific as to say, I only want to send certain things to certain locations or to certain teams. So let's just hypothesize here and say, remember earlier when we talked about that AWS event, that assume role event, username being Matt, being an event I want to trip on? Maybe that's a eyes only. That needs to go to a specific team, not everyone, but a specific team. I can control that output here. Hopefully what you're all picking up on that I've covered over the past few minutes has been when you output data and send it to somewhere else, I want you to be as specific in what it is you want that output data to do, and we'll help you get there. I want this to go to a certain team member or email distribution list. We got you. I want this to go to a general wide varying ticketing system so my help desk can pick it up. We got you. I want to send all events to this platform because I'm looking at doing some data science approach, or I'm looking at expanding upon what the normalness or the uniqueness of my environment may look like. We can help you build that as well. Wherever you need to send the data to, whatever the approach you're trying to take is, again, I want you to think, what is the thing that if I could do this, we would be the next step? We'd be a next level security team or a next level managed service provider than we are right now. We're here to help you build that. That's the goal of the SecOps Cloud Platform. Now, I've only got a few minutes left. Within those few minutes, I'm going to hit on some other high-level points that I want everyone here to know about things I think you should expect when you're talking about a platform like this. I'm going to hop back to our main page here. Number one, perhaps the one that everyone's interested in or curious about. Matt, you've spent 54 minutes talking about all these amazing features and capabilities. How much does all this cost? It's right here. Our pricing page is public. It's open for everyone to see. So when you want to talk about problems that we help solve and modernizing security operations, I don't want to lock any of you up in a 3-month negotiation to try and figure out what the right price looks like. I'm upfront. I'm upfront with my prices and how much everything costs. I'm upfront with what you can and can't do. I'm upfront to the point where I even have a calculator that lets you go through and determine, based on this footprint, based on this and that, what would it look like for me to be in LimaCharlie? You can also go through and just do the rough math in your head here. How many endpoint sensors do we have? What does our footprint look like? And what would that cost me to go through? Again, I want to make it easy and approachable for you. I don't want to have a conversation where you say, hey, I love what you do, and I love the way that this helped modernize my organization. What do I have to pay to keep being this way? And I say, well, that depends. And then 3 months later, maybe we move the progress bar a little bit. Again, I told you, I want you to be deployable and upfront immediately. My goal is to get you to where you want to be as fast as we possibly can. And whether we measure that in seconds or minutes, I promise you, we're never going to measure it in months, ever. We want to get you there quick. That's what a SecOps Cloud Platform should do, is it should help you build and get to things fast. A couple other things I'll mention about what you should expect out of security companies when you're working with them is you should expect openness. It should be easy for you to build. We've got an extremely versatile and well-covered documentation platform. I highly recommend that if you have a security company you're working with or a product company you're working with and they won't share with you how things are built or how they work, let me know, because we provide that here. I want it for you to be easy to see, how can I go build this great thing that Matt's talking about? We talk about some other features inside of the platform that are table stakes for everyone out there. Your ability to manage your users inside of your environment. REST API capabilities. I've talked about table stakes. I should have these things included. Matt, it's 2024. How else can I modernize my SOC operations? Well, remember all those features I talked about? All those detection and response capabilities, telemetry streams, extensions, way to extend the platform, API integrations. I mean, the list goes on and on. What if I told you you could also manage all of that as infrastructure as code? You can. I don't want any of you clicking around through a web app for hours. I want you to change a configuration file, push it, and be done. When I said earlier that I want to help you build and get to that next level is not more things for you to click around. That next level is, I wanted to do a thing, we put it in a configuration file, we synced, and we're done. We're on our way. That detection and response rule needed to be fine-tuned, ... click, done. We're in, we're moved, we're on to the next problem. Infrastructure as code, built in. The ability to store secrets, API keys, passwords inside of an encrypted manner so that they're not shared or stolen by a threat actor, done, included and built in there. The ability to extend the platform, the ability to zoom in on certain events, to understand more about what happens in my environment so I can make those key critical decisions about whether something's good or bad, what we need to do to action on it, done. We've got tools like binlib, binary library, that zoom in on the executions inside of your environment. I don't change the telemetry or invent new ones. I just give you a microscope to look at something differently. We're still looking at the exact same data. We're just going to focus on it in a different way because we find the value comes in showing folks, here's what happens when I open up telemetry streams. Writing your own detection and response rules, built in. Ingesting any native telemetry source or any telemetry source that's out there, built in. Outputting that data where you need it to go, built in. Multi-tenancy, API first, built in, built in. Every single thing I've talked about is a standard default inside of LimaCharlie. And now is going to be my final call to action to everyone here. I asked you in the very beginning to think about that thing. If you could build it, if you could provide it, if you could put it together to enhance your service, your customers, your security team, your security approach, your security posture, what would that thing be? I spent 58 minutes giving you a toolbox. So now my call to action is going to be, when do you want to start? When do you want to start building that particular thing? I'm here. I'm ready. Hit us up if you're curious in building that next thing and modernizing that security approach because we're ready. We're ready to go. The infrastructure is there and it's only getting better. Folks, I'm Matt Bromiley over at LimaCharlie. Super, super thankful for those of you who joined me on this webinar today. For those of you who are watching the recording, highly recommend you find a way to get in touch with me. I'd love to have a further conversation with you about the way that this works. You can hit me up on LinkedIn or any of the typical social media channels. We've also run a awesome community Slack that anyone out there in the world can join. slack.limacharlie.io. We'd love to have you in there. For those of you who are watching live, the links just got dropped into the chat. So I hope you'll get a chance to join us there. Folks, it is February 2024, and I can promise you that as the future goes on and as we record more webinars like this, our features and capabilities are only going to get better as time goes on. I'm super excited for what the future holds for us, and I hope you'll be there with me. All right, with that said, have a great day, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you.